Hi, bestie. Welcome back to my podcast. I am in such a good mood. I know I've been talking about this a lot lately, but I just need to keep reiterating to you. I have been back in my going outside, leaving the house, having a routine, not staying in bed. Even it's been really rainy in LA this week, but I've been still doing Runyon every day in a rain jacket. And it feels like my favorite thing to do is actually walk in the rain because I feel like it's just the coziest thing when you get home and you take a shower and you're all comfy. So I just got back from a rainy walk, showered, did some errands. I'm just feeling productive. And there have been so many things that have just been building and building and building up on my to-do list. I have a to-do list that's scrolls long on my phone. And I finally have been slowly checking them off. I just got back from the police station and picked up my police report for my debit card bank fraud, and the bank credited me back my money, and now they're going to decide if I get to keep it or not. So update on that, we will find out later. I don't think the police are really going to do an investigation into it. I feel like LAPD has bigger things to worry about on their books than my few $1,000s that were stolen. So I don't really think they're ever going to try to catch the guy. That being said, at least I have the police report for the bank. So update, good on that. I went to my house I'm moving into, and literally I'm moving into my house and wait, how many days are in February? It's a leap year, so there's usually 28. Is there 29 this year? I don't know. Anyway, I am moving into my house in less than 2 weeks now, and I'm getting really excited but really overwhelmed. We went and took measurements yesterday, and it is definitely a lot smaller than my apartment. I did not realize how big my apartment was here. I mean, I did and I didn't. It's I have to downsize a lot. So if you're in LA and you want any furniture, I'm going to be selling a lot of my furniture because it's not going to fit with me in my new apartment. So message me if you want any furniture and you're in the LA area. I am going to be telling you about the many times I have embarrassed myself because, unfortunately for me, but maybe fortunately for you, I do not forget things that embarrass me. I will do something embarrassing and I will ruminate over that embarrassing moment for the next 10 years. I'm still embarrassed over things I've done in first, second, third grade. There are things I was born embarrassed. And I did a TikTok about this the other day, and I got so many sweet responses where I basically was just talking about how I wake up a lot of times and just feel embarrassed. Even when there's nothing I have to be embarrassed about, sometimes I just wake up and I'm the only way I know how to describe it is I'm kind of oh my God, I feel embarrassed to be a person. I feel embarrassed to be me. I don't want anyone to perceive me. And when I get in those moods and mindsets, I decide not to leave my house because I'm just convinced everyone else can sense how embarrassing of a person I am. It makes me for example, I won't want to go to Target because I'll be everyone in Target knows you're a loser, and you're weird and embarrassing. And I just convince myself I'm this weirdo. And anyway, but then there are also the times when I do things that actually I'm okay, I mean, that is grounds for embarrassment. So as someone who already lives in a constant state of embarrassment, and I'm such an overthinker and I have anxiety and OCD, when I do something that's embarrassing, it's I ground myself. I don't let myself leave my house. I'm I am never speaking to anyone again. I turn my phone off. There have been times where I'm I am deleting all my social media. No one's ever going to hear from me again. I do not take embarrassment lightly. And whenever I'm trying to deal with really, really, really embarrassing things and moments in my life that I've done, I will go on YouTube or look for a podcast of people talking about embarrassing things they have done to try to make myself feel better, because I go to YouTube for everything, same with breakups, but I like to hear that, okay, I'm not the only one who's a complete freak and a complete weirdo. So today's episode is I am gifting you some of my most embarrassing moments that I could think of off the top of my head, because I know when I'm feeling embarrassed, I'm like, oh my God, someone's got to like say something worse they've done. And it really does make me feel better. So I hope maybe if you're feeling embarrassed, this will make you feel better. Or if you're not feeling embarrassed today, maybe on a later date, you can come back and listen to this to make yourself feel better. So I made a little list on my phone just of like recent things. I mean, I've been embarrassing. I was like, should I include like, the time this was so embarrassing in first grade. I used to pee my pants all the time in first grade because I had this friend Matthew who at recess, he would always like pull down his pants and show me his penis in first grade. Not in like a weird way, just in like I thought it was hilarious. And he'd always make me laugh when he did that because I thought it was so funny. And then I would pee my pants and then I would go back into class. And there were so many embarrassing moments with that. Like one time I went back to class and then this kid who I had a crush on, I don't know if you can even have a crush in first grade, I quote unquote had a crush on him. He turned around and he was like, wow, the whole room like smells like pee right now. And like I was like, yeah, it does, knowing like I peed my pants. And like another time I went to gym like right after recess and like clearly had soaking wet pants, and then the gym teacher was like, do you need to go to the nurse, Callie? And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. Why would I need to go to the nurse? So I was like, should I include, I'll never get over those moments. Those are humiliating to me. But I think I'll do the more recent ones just because, that's what I put in my list. But yeah, I still think back, like, that's the thing. Like, I'm still embarrassed over those moments in first grade, which how many years ago is that? 20 years ago. I'm embarrassed over things still that happened 20 years ago, which means I probably will never not be embarrassed about anything in my life. That's great. Okay. Anyway, these are in no particular order. So I'm just going to start off strong with, I actually just told a brief version of this story on TikTok, but I will go into the full story here. Okay. This was humiliating and this was pretty recent and it's actually like very painful for me. Like this makes me I feel physical pain when I talk about this story. So back in the day, last year, I was scrolling on Raya and I matched with this guy, very cute skater boy. I love a skater boy, okay? And we had been chatting and we made plans. This is before I lived in LA. I was in New York, but this is like in my era when I was going to LA all the time because I hated New York and Celia was here and I just didn't want to be in New York because I was so depressed and miserable there. Anyway, so I was talking to this guy and I told him, we'll just call him Skater Boy. I told him that I'd be in LA like next week. Do you want to go to date? And he was like, yeah, sure. And then fast forward, I also matched with another guy a few days later on Raya. We'll call him Surfer Boy. And he was also very cute, very sweet. And we had like better conversation, but I thought Skater Boy was a lot cuter. And so whatever, I'm talking to them both, no conflict of interest here. So I thought, because just two random guys. But then of course, as one does, I go on their social media and like do a little stalking, because who doesn't do that? And I like only find out that these two guys are best friends through like heavy stalking of like going on their highlights and seeing like I really hope neither of them listens to this, because that would just, why would they ever listen to my podcast? Well, one of them might. Anyway, oh God, painful. Yeah, I saw like in one of their highlights that like there were many stories of them like talking about how good of friends. I don't know. It was just clear that they were like good friends. I guess I can't say that they're best friends, but they seem like very close friends from these stories I saw. But I was like, what is the harm in talking to both of them? Because how the hell would I be expected to know their friends? Because I would only know their friends if I stalked their Instagrams. And I'm acting like a cool, chill girl who would never stalk someone's Instagram before I go on a date with them. So I was just like, whatever, no harm, no foul, no one will know. And also in my head, I really thought, and I mean, my mind is, I thought the guys like don't talk about like the girls they're talking to on dating apps. I just like, or even go on dates with, like, I just feel like I assumed guys didn't talk about stuff like that. So anyway, get to LA, message Skater Boy, and we were supposed to go on a date like the next day, or no, that night actually. So we're texting back and forth, like talking about our plans, what we're gonna do that night. And then he just stops responding, and I'm like, what the hell? And then he hits me like 3 hours later with a, sorry, I accidentally fell asleep. And I'm sorry, but like, he could have just said like, I'm busy or something. I don't believe the accidentally fell asleep. Like if you're texting back that fast, and like, it was like, he was like driving home. He was like, oh, like I'm going home, making dinner. Like you didn't accidentally fall asleep while you were making dinner. Anyway, so I just kind of like blew him off in my head, because I was like, okay, well, I'm not gonna like try to hang out with you if you like fell asleep, like, you know, like I'm not gonna try to hang out with you if you very obviously like are lying about why you canceled. I don't know, because I'm trying to have more self-respect these years, even though I keep running into situations where I fail at that. But anyway, so then I'm like, okay, well, I really do want to go on a date, because at this point I had just like gotten out of a situationship, and I was like really sad, and I was like, I've got to move on and get back on that horse. And so I messaged his friend. I wasn't going to message his friend, but then I decided, okay, let's message his friend, because Skater Boy kind of like failed the whole test, I guess. Well, he really just kind of like ditched me. And then, I mean, he did say he wanted to hang out later, but I was like, when is later? Whatever. Anyway, so then I messaged Surfer Boy, and we did go on a date together. And the date was fine. He was like a very, like, to this day, I think he is such a sweet guy. It's just like we were not compatible at all. You know what I mean? Like, nothing against him. It's just, I feel like, side note, a lot of guys from Southern California, specifically Southern California, have zero sense of humor, I've noticed. And like, not to say he had like zero sense of humor, but I just feel like a lot of guys around here do not have any sense of humor. And like, I'll make jokes, like, I guess I'm like a sarcastic, jokey person, and they'll just go like right over people's heads, and they'll like not get that I'm being sarcastic, and then it's awkward, and then I'm like, okay. So anyway, like, I just feel like, yeah, he wasn't really that jokey or funny of a person. I like someone who can make me laugh. Anyway, so we didn't work out. I move on. And then later that night, he must have gone to Skater Boy's house after, because he lived a little bit outside of LA. So what I'm imagining happened is they probably hung out after our date so that he didn't have to like drive all the way home that night or something. I don't know. And so Skater Boy texted me and said, how did the date with my friend go? And I mean, I was shocked, because what the hell? I did not think that guys talked, and apparently they talked, and put two and two together that I went on a date with Surfer Boy, was supposed to go on a date with Skater Boy, whatever. And so that's not even where it gets that embarrassing though. Like, I felt uncomfortable, but I just didn't respond, because at that point I didn't know what to say. So I just was like, I'm just gonna not say anything. Anyway, fast forward to last April. I moved to LA, and I'm sitting with my friend, and I'm talking about this whole story about how I went on a date with a friend, and then the friend found out, whatever. And she's like, he's so cute. You really should text him again. Like, it's been a year. You never responded. Like, just text him. And drinks were flowing, and I was like, okay, yeah, like, why not? And so I sent him some text. I'm sure I would read it to you, but I know it was deleted from my phone because I was humiliated. But something along the lines of, hey, like, in LA, if you still want to grab that drink. And then I put my phone down. I'm like, I can't look at it, because whenever I send a text that I like feel like scared, I'll like put on, my phone's always on Do Not Disturb actually, but I'll go put it away and like not look at it for like an hour. So an hour passes, and I go and pick my phone up, and I see that he's responded, and I'm thrilled. I see one message from Skater Boy. I open my phone, and the message is, who is this? So I was like bummed, but I was like, okay, it's been a year. I guess he never saved my number, and maybe, I don't know, whatever. And so I'm talking to my friend, and she's like, well, it would be humiliating to text back and just say your name. And she was like, so you have to send him a selfie instead. Like, that's much more cool girl to send a selfie than just say your name. And I don't agree with that logic looking back, but at the time I was like, yeah, I guess that makes sense. And I was pretty tipsy. So I find this selfie. Actually, you can go on my Instagram and see the exact photo. Let me see the date of the photo I sent, just so if you're listening to this and want to see the selfie I sent. I mean, I think I look stunning in it, but where is it? Okay. So if you go to my Instagram, I sent him on my January 19th, 2023 scroll. I sent him this photo of me in bed. It's kind of weird that it's a pretty weird photo to send. Oh God, that makes me cringe. Okay, yeah, well, I send that to him and he never responded, ever. And I'm still humiliated about that to this day because that's super embarrassing. I went on a date with his friend. He found out. Then a year later, I try to hang out with him again after going on a date with his friend when I had a date set up with him. Send him a weird selfie of myself. And then he never responds. So, yeah, okay, that's embarrassing moment number 1. Check. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, here's embarrassing story number 2. And I can't remember if I've told you the story or not. So sorry if I have, but this is just such a humiliating story. It would be a shame not to share it with you if I haven't. Ugh. Okay, this was senior year. No, I really think I told you this. Okay, well, I'll go through this one fast. And if I told you this already, I'm sorry, but this one really sticks with me forever. I was talking to this guy my senior year of college. We met at a club at Bijou, if you live in Boston and know it. And it was me and a few of my friends. We were at Bijou and like these guys invited us to their table, whatever. And the night is just getting started and I meet this guy and we instantly like vibe like that. And this is, first of all, humiliating. Me and him start like really dancing with each other, like kind of like grind dancing, which I never do, ever, never have done, never done except for that one night. And it's like people don't do that in Bijou. And it was also like pretty empty because it was early in the night. So it was just kind of like the two of us having this weird moment. And that's embarrassing in itself. Anyway, we start talking and we start hanging out a lot. And I'm always going to his apartment because he had this beautiful apartment. And in college, Celia and I were really weird about our apartments. It's not like they were just like college apartments. And this guy, his apartment was like not a college apartment. It was like a stunning, beautiful, very nice luxury apartment. And so Celia and I were both like really weird about letting guys into her apartment because we were just embarrassed. Like looking back, it's so stupid. But we were like, first of all, embarrassed we didn't have a doorman, which is so dumb. So dumb. But for some reason we were like embarrassed because we went to Suffolk where like I feel like every single person lived in a luxury building except for us. That's not actually accurate, but that's how it felt. If you go to Suffolk or you went to Suffolk, you probably know what I mean. And so we would never have guys over to our apartment because it was just like, it was a college apartment. It was basement, bars on the windows, centipedes, mice, typical college apartment is the point. So anyway, I would never invite him over. I would always go to his. And it was fine at first, but then he started trying to come over and I would always deny him to come over. And I think he started to think it was a little weird. And I remember one time even we lived in Fenway at the time and he texted me and he was like, hey, I'm in your neighborhood. Can I stop by? And I purposely ignored his text so that I didn't have to invite him over. And then I like conveniently texted him back like hours later. And so I don't really know why he stopped talking to me, but I'm going to assume maybe it's that. I think he got a little weirded out that I literally would never, ever, ever invite him over or let him know where I lived, which is so weird and dramatic. And I don't know why we did that. Anyway, you know that feeling when you can tell someone's starting to pull away and get distant. It's the worst feeling in the world. And so I texted him and asked if everything was okay between us. And he said something along the lines of, yeah, of course, not going out this weekend though, I'm sick. And then a few hours later, I'm out at a club at the Grand and I see his story on Instagram, he's out at Bijou, and I'm like, oh God, okay, this is confirmation he doesn't like me. And so I always think a phone call can fix everything. So I decide to call him up, and I still don't know to this day if I did this or not, but the fact that I'm 99% sure I did it means I probably did it. I know I left him a voicemail because he didn't answer. I think, and this horrifies me, but I think in the voicemail I told him I loved him. I'll never know, but the fact that I'm pretty sure I did that means I probably did. And he never responded to the voicemail or any of the, I used to be like, I don't do this anymore. Luckily, I'll still send drunk texts sometimes, but one, I used to send 50 drunk texts back in the day, which I'm really glad I don't. I've finally got some self-control with that. But anyway, he never responds to me, probably because I told him I loved him after 3 weeks. And fast forward, it's a month later, Celia and I go to New York, and I'm trying to get over him. So I hook up with this guy at a club who told me he wasn't a promoter. He was in real estate, but then I find out that he is in real estate, but also a promoter, which is such an ick. Anyway, we hook up, and I go get STD tested after that and find out I have chlamydia. And this guy, the promoter, convinces me that I gave it to him. And so then everything clicks in my head, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I know why I was ghosted by this man I told that I loved them. It's because they were in love with me too. They gave me chlamydia, and that's why they haven't been talking to me, because they're so scared that I'll be upset with them, and they love me so much. That's where my brain went, because I was like, that is the only possible reason he stopped talking to me. So I take it upon myself to decide to reach out to him. And I didn't have his number anymore because I was humiliated, so I deleted his number from my phone, as one does. But my friend was talking to his friend in the past as well. They also stopped talking for different reasons. But anyway, she had his friend's number, who was his roommate as well. So I told her, can you please text his roommate, say it's an emergency and I need his number. And so she texts his roommate, says, I'm having an emergency and I need his roommate's number. And his roommate never responds. So then I'm like, okay, I still have him on Snapchat. So I go on Snapchat and I message him something along the lines of I know you gave me chlamydia. I know that's why we stopped talking. Whatever. And then he never responded. He opened it. He never responded. I see his story that day. Didn't know he was on a boat in Miami with all his friends. They probably all laughed about it. And I found out later, I get a text from this promoter. He's like, I'm so sorry. Yeah, I got chlamydia from my girlfriend who I cheated on you with because she was cheating on me too. Or he cheated on her with me is what I meant to say. So yeah, point being, this guy didn't give me chlamydia. The one who ghosted me, it was the promoter. Accused him of giving me chlamydia. He didn't. He never responded. That still embarrasses me to this day, but he did like my Instagram picture recently. Okay, this one, I was talking with Celia, was like, should I tell this one? This goes almost past humiliation. So this was in high school, my junior year of high school. I was 16. This is when I was very in my crazy era, okay? And just to preface, not like this at all anymore. I've explained the whole situation, but I used to do a ton of drugs in high school and make really stupid decisions. And I was going through a breakup. I was really sad. And I was talking to this guy who was a few years older than me. I think he was a freshman in college. And I thought he was so cool. And he invited me to this party. And I begged and begged and begged to let my parents go to this party I told them about. I told them it was a final exam party because we had finals. And they told me I could go so long as I was home by 10 and didn't drink or anything. And so I promised I wouldn't drink, whatever. I go to this party. This is when, and I'm not going to go into full details because I just don't think it's fully time to discuss this. One day I will talk about it with you. I just don't know when the right time is. But I was doing some pretty heavy drugs at the time, and I brought them with me, okay? No one at this party was doing drugs, just me. And I go do them privately. Then I come back out, and I'm drinking with everyone. And that is the last thing I remember. All I know is that my parents must have been calling me. I was incoherent, and So, and like pretty much not responsive. So then this guy that I really liked had to drive my car back with me in it, drop me off at my house. His friends followed. And then my parents came out and asked what this man gave me. And this man's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know if he even responded. I think they just drove off. Then I think my mom took my phone. So, mother, if you're listening to this, was humiliating. She took my phone and she texted him off my phone saying it was my mom asking what he gave me. Once again, he's confused as hell because it was just a normal party where we were sitting around a fire having a few beers. No one was doing drugs. I really must reiterate that. I ended up having to go to the hospital, and in the morning I see all these texts, and he's like, I think he responded to my mom and he was like, I don't know what you're talking about, because he didn't. And so I texted him in the morning and I was like, sorry, I did too many drugs last night and I had to go to the hospital. And that, I mean, I have never felt so embarrassed in my life. I mean, obviously, like, that goes beyond embarrassment, but I was humiliated because this guy in my eyes was so cool, and he was not like a person who thought doing drugs was cool. I thought he was like so much more mature and whatever. And I was, I mean, that pains me. Like, that still to this day, he works at a store in my hometown still. And I hate going into that store because, like, I know he knows. It's just, yeah. So that was pretty embarrassing. Here is a lighter one going off that one, but also involving going to the hospital. One time, this was also in high school, I had been eating like just so much bread. I am such a bread girl. I love bread, but I now very much know about myself. I need to have vegetables in my diet on top of bread, or else I get very constipated. Did not know this at the time. It's Christmas Day. We just ate dinner and we're all sitting down to watch a movie. And I start to get these really weird cramps. I used to get really, really, really painful periods, so I just assumed it was my period, and I was like, oh great, okay, I'm gonna go upstairs, run a bath, because I know like I'm about to get really bad cramps. So I get in the bath, and then I like start really sweating, and like at first I think it's just because the bath is so hot, so I get out of the bath, and then I like feel the most intense pain of my life, and my vision starts to blur and I'm seeing black spots in my vision. And so I get dressed and like I call downstairs and I'm like, I need to go to the emergency room right now. Something is really wrong. I've never been in this much pain in my life. I cannot see straight. I think I'm going to faint, whatever. So my dad brings me to the emergency room. And in the emergency room, everyone's like very concerned because they told me later that if I was older, they would have tested me for a heart attack because my symptoms were like displaying those of a heart attack. And so they did an EKG, they ran blood tests, they like asked me all this drug history. So in front of everyone, all the doctors, I had to like go through all my drug history as like this 15-year-old, which was embarrassing because they were like, whoa, you should probably chill out a little bit. And then they asked for a urine sample because everything was like coming back normal and they couldn't really figure out what was going on. So they give me a little cup for my urine sample and I go in the bathroom and all of a sudden I just let loose. I hadn't pooped in like probably a week, like really pooped. And I just had like seriously insane diarrhea in this bathroom. And then I felt like all the pain. I felt the chest pain, the sweats, the blurry vision, the cramps, all of it went away. I come back out, like the doctor's waiting for me, and I have to be like, hey, I think I know what the problem was. I'm feeling 100% better now. I just had like crazy diarrhea. And yeah, I mean, turns out they told me that, as I said earlier, gas pain can literally mimic heart attack pain. Like, it is severe pain, but that was pretty embarrassing to go to the emergency room for being constipated and then just having diarrhea and heading home. So that was an embarrassing moment. But going off of that embarrassing story, Oh my gosh, I have a lot of embarrassing stories like to do with constipation and diarrhea. These next two are both at my ex-boyfriend's house. The one who I was with for like 2 years with the undiagnosed schizophrenia, that one, just so you can like put a image to the person. And okay, so I was scarred. I still am scarred to this day from this trip to the ER from being so constipated. So whenever I start to think I'm a little constipated, I start to panic. And I'm at his parents' house with him in New York, and we're sitting in the basement. This was my sophomore or junior year of college, and I start to like get a little sweaty, and I'm like not good at pooping at other people's houses, especially like my boyfriend's house, like boyfriend's family's house. It's just a lot. And so I'm starting to get the sweats a little bit, and he's like I'm getting a little pale, and he's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, to be honest, no, I think I'm a little bit constipated and I'm a little worried about it, but I'm just trying to ride this out and see what happens, whatever. His mom comes downstairs a few moments later, and his mom was so nice. But anyway, she comes downstairs and she's like, "How are you guys?" And my boyfriend at the time goes, "Actually, not great. She's very constipated," which at the time, like we were still in like a new relationship-ish. And so to like have that conversation with my new boyfriend's mom was just a lot. And she was like, "Oh, well, we have some suppositories upstairs. How about you go try to use one, maybe take a shower, take a bath, use a suppository, whatever." If you don't know what a suppository is, because I did not know what it was until that day. It's this little, like, it almost looks like a crystal, but it's like, I don't know, it's like this solid thing that I guess like doesn't melt in your butt. I don't really know, but you basically have to stick it up your butt and like let it sit in there for 15 minutes, and then it's supposed to like relieve you and get everything out. I don't really know the science behind it. I just know it works. Okay. And so his mom gives me the suppository. His dad and his sister are also home, and they are alerted of the situation as well. And so now everyone knows that and they all like wish me luck and like show me off to the bathroom. So now I'm sitting in my new boyfriend's house around his family. I put a suppository up my butt, and I'm terrified because I'm like scared to even use the thing. And everyone is waiting like feet away in the living room. And so I turned the shower on because I'm like, what the hell? I felt so under pressure. And then I got too scared to use the suppository. So basically I pushed it out early and it didn't even work. And then I came out and everyone was waiting and asked how it went. And I just was like, yeah, great, feeling a lot better. And that was the end of that. That was pretty humiliating. And this was a little later on, after we had been dating for like probably a year. We were at his beach house, and this time I was not constipated, but I had like terrible diarrhea. And so I go he had a guest bathroom downstairs, and I go into the bathroom and like just really tear it up in there, come out, whatever. And then my boyfriend goes in, and then he makes this huge scene accusing his dad of like just like really making the bathroom smell, and in front of everyone. And everyone knows like his dad had not gone to the bathroom, and like everyone kind of deduced at the end of the day that it was me. And that's just also, I mean, that's humiliating. So that took me a pretty long time to get over. This was actually this is almost so recent that it's embarrassing to talk about. This is another skater boy. You know what? I don't think I'm ever going to talk to another skater boy again because they're just all weird. But okay. So I was talking to this like skater guy I matched with like a year ago, and nothing really ever came of it. We would like chat, but like not hang out, whatever. And when was this? I think this was like in September of this past year. He texts me out of the blue and is like, "What's up?" and invites me to a party. And I wasn't going to go, but I was like, what if, like, you never know, like things could work out. And like in my head, I think like he's inviting me to the party, like maybe because he, I don't know, wants to see me. And so I'm so excited. And I was like iffy on whether I was going to go or not, because I was like, maybe I should just see if he wants to hang out later. So initially I think I texted and I was like, I can't come, but do you want to hang out later? And he never responded. So then I texted again and I was like, okay, we'll be there. What's your address? And so he gives us his address, and Celie and I were at Barney's, and we waited there until like 1 a.m. And then we decided, okay, let's like head there, because I thought like 1 a.m. was like a safe time to arrive, like, you know, not too early. I assume people would be there. So, and keep in mind, like, I also think like there's a chance like this guy's interested in me, okay, and like I'm trying to act cool. And so we get to his house, and we are the first people at his house. He is not even there yet. He like hired a bouncer security guard outside who told us to wait, and we were literally the first people to arrive. And he saw us there as the first people to arrive because he got there shortly after. So it looked like I was so eager to be there, and like it's not a good feeling to get to any party first, but like to be eagerly waiting in someone's driveway. And then we didn't even talk the entire night. Once it turned out like he just invited like a million girls. I think he just goes down his list and just invites hundreds and hundreds of girls. And yeah, he recently invited me to another party, and I was like, not going to happen. So that was just like a little small moment that I was pretty embarrassed about. This episode's getting a little bit long, so I'm going to tell one more embarrassing story, but this one was humiliating. And I'm not sure if I talked about this on here, but this was last year in New York, right before I moved. And this, like, literally, I sobbed about this for days because I was so embarrassed. I thought about deleting all of my social media, and I, like, locked myself in my apartment for days, would not leave. Basically, like, rewind a little bit, like, a year before this, I had been talking to this weird as hell guy. It was right when I got back from like the pandemic, like starting like things like kind of like going back to normal a little bit. And I had not talked to a guy in ages because I was at my parents' house for like a year. And if you were around when like during like the height of the pandemic, like I took it very, very, very seriously. Like I was not, like I had no social contact with anyone. So I meet this guy. He's a little weird, but we really just hit it off, and drinking crazy, have like a really fun like 2-day bender together where we're just like having a blast. And then he ghosted me, and I was so upset at the time because it was like the first guy I had liked in a while. But like looking back, like he was just weird as hell, and I like later realized like he was weird as hell and like not my type, and just like kind of like a weird guy, okay? And so okay, this time last year, literally it might almost be the anniversary of this situation. Alex is visiting me because I'm about to move, and it's going to be like our last weekend in New York together. And we kind of just have a crazy day. We go to breakfast, we have some mimosas. Then we're like, let's go into Soho, have a little shopping day. Go shopping. Then we go to lunch/dinner. Oh, we had to go to an event that had free drinks. Then we go to lunch/dinner at Balthazar and just start ordering rounds and rounds and rounds. We have many drinks, and then we're like, let's go out to a club. I was like, I did not want to like wait in a line or like, you know, I don't know. I just wanted to go to a fun club and not have to wait. And I knew there was one person I could contact who could make anything happen. And this was the guy who ghosted me, who's weird as hell. And at this point too, I mean, I've never really shown anyone, like any guys I've talked to, not that I'm like talking to like great guys, but I keep that to myself. So this was the first guy I'd ever revealed on my social media, which I'm getting to. I text him and I'm like, let's go out. And he's like, cool, I'll get you guys a table, little sister. And so he got me and Alex and him only a table, but he comes over to my apartment first. And I am so drunk at this point, and I make a TikTok saying, if you ever are feeling sad about someone ghosting you, just know that they'll always regret it. And then I pull him in, this weird as hell guy. You can still find the video. I'd prefer if you didn't, but if you're curious, like, it's many people reposted it. So I like have this whole video of him being like, yeah, like I'll love you forever. I regret it. And I post it. And then I go on my merry way. We head to Little Sister. We get there, and the girl at the front who like brings you to the table followed me and said hi, and I definitely made out with this guy in front of her. So if you're listening to this, I'm embarrassed about that too, because now I know someone who knows me saw me kiss this man, which is really embarrassing. And like, I mean, the whole night I was just drunk as hell at the table, just with him basically and Alex. And yeah, we definitely made out. Hopefully no one really saw. But anyway, then I go home and I open up my TikTok, and like it is just flooded with comments of everyone being like, bestie, you're gonna want to delete this, like you're gonna regret this in the morning. Like everyone had my back and they were like, you should probably take this down. But I was like, oh my gosh, like it's funny, like whatever. Then I woke up and I was like, whoa, yeah, I needed to take that down. Like that is humiliating. The first guy I show is this guy, and this is the guy that I'm saying like people now like are thinking this is like my ex-boyfriend. He's just this weird guy I hooked up with once, and it's just like not a reflection of me. And now everyone like, I would not want to be perceived as the person who, no shade to him, would like be with him. Okay. And so then the worst part was like, imagine doing something embarrassing. Fine. Okay. Imagine doing something embarrassing and posting it online. A little worse, but fine. Imagine doing something embarrassing online, deleting it because you're humiliated, and then having multiple people repost it and talk about it. And all your comments are just reflected and asking about the guy. And there's Reddit posts and weird discussions. That I sobbed about that. I have never had such bad anxiety in my entire life. And I literally almost deleted TikTok. I'm not joking. I was like, maybe social media, maybe this isn't the career path for me. I almost deleted everything and just called it a day. I called my mom sobbing. I called all my friends sobbing. And I just sat in my room and sobbed for like 4 days because I was humiliated. Meanwhile, this guy is texting me and being like, oh, like, why didn't you tag me in the post? Why'd you take it down? It was performing so well. And I'm like, that is, yeah. Oh, God. Yeah. So anyway, I hope maybe one of those embarrassing stories helped you just a little bit. And we're all in this together. You know, Celia's and my new motto has been, we're really just girls. We're just girls going through life. Like whenever we do something now, I know this is like a thing on TikTok, but it just like really registered with us. We were like, we are just girls. Like even like to like, you can apply this to anything. Like Celia and I were like sitting at dinner, both kind of sad over guys the other night. And then we were like, it doesn't have to be a deep thing. We're just two girls who are going through life. And like that's how I'm looking at everything now. I'm just a girl. I do weird things. We all do weird things. We move on. But the beautiful thing is we all do embarrassing things. So if you're feeling embarrassed, know that I've probably done something worse. And I love you. And I'm here for you. And I will see you next week. Love you, bestie.